human behavior and motivations. We've talked about motivations. If you get that in the question, make sure you define it every time you use it. Got it? So you have to define what type of motivation and say what the motivation is for or towards. Okay? And then if you're saying behavior, make sure you say what type of behavior and then you describe the behavior. So what is the relevant motivation that is the problem with this society? Why is there this level of corruption in Salem? Who is exploiting it? Who has all the power in this society? So it's called a theocracy, theocratic value systems. Religion dictates the law of society, or like the rules of society. So in the 1600s, everyone believed that whatever was in the Bible, or at least they were heavily influenced by what was in the Bible, in determining their behavior and the laws and the what's right and what's wrong, okay? So that meant that what kinds of people had a lot of power in this time? So ministers and reverends, does everyone remember? Reverend Paris, Minister Paris, right? Reverend Hale. Those people who have power due to the theocracy, because values of society come from religion, so now the church has so much power, right? The church still has a lot of power today, right? But arguably not as much. Back then, the church has a lot of power, so anyone who works for the church has an interest to justify their own legitimacy. The priests and people who have power in this theocracy are motivated to continually justify their legitimacy. It means they need to constantly prove to people that they deserve that power. So who's the character at the start of the play who really establishes that tone of needing to justify his power and therefore playing along with the hysteria, because it means that people will be vulnerable and will want the church to have power? Paris is the one who he's worked so hard to get to where he is in the church, right? And he feels like people don't respect him. So he's happy for this witchcraft myth to be spreading around, right? He's happy for the lie to spread around because it actually comes from the Bible, this fear of witches, and people are going to turn to the church then for power, right? Or for guidance. He wants to keep his power. So he's happy to play along with it. Who's the other really corrupt body of people in the play? So there's the priests, and mainly Paris, and then there's the judges. The judiciary are the other people. The court, who are the key judges in the play? Danforth and Hathorne, Judge Hathorne. Those judges represent the judiciary. They are basically motivated by power as well. And you see that because, does everyone remember how the court basically deals with these cases? So if you're accused of witchcraft, that's a crime. So then you go to court, like you would today. If you commit a crime, you go to court, right? What are these judges saying? How are they treating these matters? So their admission of spectral evidence is somewhat absurd, isn't it? Because it's invisible evidence. There's no actual evidence. They're saying, hey, I saw a witch. It's like, well, where's your proof? They go, that is the proof. Do you see what word does that remind you of in the rubric, by the way? Paradoxical. Can everyone see how when you go to court, if the strongest evidence you have is evidence that does not exist, so they're basically admitting that evidence that by its nature, paradoxically, is not evidence. What that's showing is that the court is unjust, okay? So they're motivated to exploit power, right? And then that results in a collective injustice.